So we're going to start off the first one with a lovely guy. I've known him for many, many years now, and he's certainly good at storytelling. Can you please welcome to the Keith David podcast? It's Gerry.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed your previous podcasts very much.
I do try and impress.
Yeah.
So Gerry, just explain to anyone that's listening at the moment a little bit about yourself before we delve into your sordid past of gay life.
Yeah, I was born in Belfast and came out at the time when the Troubles were starting, and as we were bombing bars, it wasn't such a good idea to be hanging around drinking with a load of queers. So I moved to Dublin because I met somebody, and I thought, oh yeah, he'll do.
But how did you meet somebody back where you were?
I myself and 3 other queens rented a car and we drove down to Dublin, and there were 2 bars there. Belfast only had the one, but Dublin had the luxury of 2 bars. Wow. And I was standing outside the second one and I saw someone come out and I thought, that's mine.
Oh, is it a bit like your Charlie Hunnam?
Yeah. So I moved down to Dublin and moved in with him, but I still hadn't really come out at work or anything like that. I got a job, not really come out. It wasn't until I got dumped and then decided I wanted to go to acting school, so took drama classes and got a show. Filled in this amazing CV that nobody could check on because it was all theatres in Belfast that had been bombed, and so they were closed and nobody could check on them. But it was a fabulous CV.
all the truths.
Yeah. And I'd done some Irish dancing, so I could count musically, and I took another couple of dance classes, took a couple of singing lessons, and then walked into somewhere for the audition, and it was like they were lucky to have me, and I blagged it. I was bottom of the cast list in the very first show that I did.
Oh, is that the last time it was bottom? No, recently now. Anyway, so I did that for quite some time. That was really the first time I suppose I did come out, because I was in a dressing room with a load of other queens, and the show was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and the label on the dressing room door was The Brothers, and someone had come along and scored it out and wrote Sisters. So that was our start, and the rest of it was just having fun. I met somebody on holiday in Sitges back in 75, okay,
I think, and kept coming to London at weekends when I could, if I wasn't working, and then decided, this is really where I should be.
Yeah,
this is my place. Like back then, there was no gay pride in Belfast. There was no gay pride in Dublin. But now there is, but there wouldn't.
What was it like back then, though? I mean, how did the people look on homosexuals back in that day?
Oh, you could. There was a park where people used to go to meet, to go cruising in Dublin. But it just happened to be about 200 yards from the then Prime Minister's home. No. And 300 yards from Dublin's #1 criminal. The General, a film was made about him.
Oh, okay.
So the place was crawling with policemen. And people got that they just weren't going to take it anymore. That I suppose this was it was quite a while after Stonewall and all the rest. But people just weren't going to take being pushed around by these cute cops on motorbikes coming around to chase the queens away. So people stood their ground.
Okay.
And there were more and more parties. One of the parties, the story I told you was at the time Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan were visiting Ireland, and they were in Dublin, and there was a party in this particular neighbourhood, but some people didn't
like the idea of seeing all these men going in the door, and the police were called, and a lot of substances were thrown in the fire, and giving funny little coloured flames off. And this policewoman in a parka said, "Oh well, boys, what's for the celebration?" And a queen at the back says, "It's a welcome Nancy Reagan party, and we're all Nancys."
And how did that down? How did it go down?
So that one of the cops had to walk out. But she smiled, and that kind of set the mood. People would really, we weren't going to be pushed around, and the same too when they come on the motorbikes, because they'd been down watching the Prime Minister's house or watching the General's house, and so people started standing up to them. And then there was a guy called David Norris who's got a couple of awards. He was at the forefront of starting Ireland's equivalent to Gay Liberation Front. And he managed to get this basement that a lot of people mucked in and did it all up, and that used to be the Friday, Saturday and Sunday night disco. Flickers it was called. And one year we put on a pantomime that somebody wrote, incorporating all the locals of local characters in Dublin. And the David who ran it all said, "Oh well, if we can do one show, that would be great. It'll get our money back." Don't know what he meant by money back. Everybody was doing it for free. But it turned out we did 6 shows, and they made loads of money, and all that went to getting another venue.
Nice.
And then after that, I got bored.
Yeah. But so something that I want to, you probably won't remember this, but you told me a story quite some time ago now about, now it might be a little bit embarrassing, but a transistor radio or radio when you was having homosexual encounters in a flat, and you could tune in to the police, and they're saying something about, there's gays to be reported in number 10 in this.
Oh yeah, no, that was in Belfast.
What was that about? What?
Well, back in the day, you were able to retune when televisions had buttons on them, and you would tune each channel.
Oh my God.
You tune each channel in on a button.
Yeah.
And if you did it properly, you could tune into the army and police nearby. And I happened to be in a flat one particular night when we heard that they were coming. So by the time they banged on the door and came in, we were all sitting there, very demure.
What did they say? What did they say? Like, you two
they
boys
just wanted to know what was going on. No, what do you mean, what's going on? We're watching TV.
Yeah. I mean, and also, all the joking aside, I mean, it's quite a scary thing to only hear that you got some police or army people coming to bash on your door because you're homosexuals.
Yeah. But that happened all the time. That you always ran the risk of being mugged.
So what? So you moved to London because what? You decided you're the thespian. You're going to be the next big top rather than the bottom.
Yeah, right.
And what brought you to London? Just because it's more liberated? Or?
No, I had gone up to Belfast to audition for a TV show. I took the 2 dogs with me, and so there was nobody left in the flat. And when I got back, I found out that I'd been broken into.
Oh, shite. Okay.
And they took everything.
Wow.
Everything. They even took stuff out of the freezer. And a few weeks before, a close friend had died from an AIDS-related illness.
Okay.
And so I just thought, there's nothing. It's time for me to move on. Time for the next step.
So what? I'm guessing this was the 80s then. If you're talking
87, I arrived in London.
Wow, so quite some time ago now.
Yeah,
I never
87. It was Sunday of the men's singles final.
Wow, you remember that?
Pat Cash won. Yeah.
So what? Tell us then. You moved. You did a Dick Whittington. You got yourself over to London. What was in your pockets? How much did you have?
I sold what was left in the flat, which was very little. I think a bed and a wardrobe.
After they took everything and the freezer.
And I arrived in London with £37.
Jeez.
That was
nothing now.
I was on a Sunday. Monday, I went hawking around. Somebody told me that they were looking for waiting staff. So I went along on the Monday, and just it was in another audition. You had to sell yourself, so you told them, "Can you do silver service?" Yes. Have you served gentry? I served the Prime Minister one time.
Is this true or not?
No, I didn't. How are they to know?
But you're bold as brass. I mean, I could never do something like that.
Hello, is that the Prime Minister in Dublin? I have Gerry Cummings standing here in front of me. Do you remember him serving you one time?
Well, so basically, the last few jobs that you blagged was basically a lie. No? But you didn't phone.
Yeah.
You got a job in London.
Yeah.
As a silver service.
Yeah. But it was also one of those places. It was a cabaret restaurant, so you had to do.
Oh no! So it's like burlesque, a bit like Cher.
What?
The film Burlesque, Cher and Christina. Which one were you?
Christina. Funny you should say Christina, because Chrissy was a real slang term for somebody in Dublin that, like the way the Aussies would have Sheilas.
Oh yeah.
You would refer to Chrissies in Dublin.
Oh,
that's just a by the by. Anyway,
that's good.
I went in. The woman that was there, she liked me because she said on the first shift, "Oh, you'll work with me so I can keep an eye on you and see how good you are." I thought, plug. So that was the Monday. I went home. I bought a serving spoon and fork for £1
to practice
in one of these thrift shops. Yeah. I went back to Richard's and I started lifting frozen peas, potatoes, eggs, and kept practicing until I could use the spoon and fork properly.
Is it quite hard? Is it a hard thing to do that?
Nah.
I think you're just dissing every
Just shove your elbow in first to get them out of your way. Sorry, excuse me, madam.
So from working as
my skinny elbows. Excuse me, madam. Oh, sorry, was that your ribs?
So working from silver service, because you have got a life as an entertainer. I mean, you've well, I can say you did Eurovision. You was a backing dancer at Eurovision at one point, but you're an entertainer.
I beg your pardon. Excuse me.
Have I got that wrong? You're not backing dancer.
I was a member of the quartet.
Whose?
We were. It was 4 of us.
Okay, well, that's nice.
Fronting it.
So you basically, in essence, you are an entertainer.
I'm a blagger.
You're a blagger.
That's basically all I am. I'm not an entertainer. I'm just a blagger, a storyteller.
Well, you've been.
That's all. You put on a front.
Okay.
You go in and you see somebody.
So
and you rehearse it a little bit.
Are you basically telling me that 12 years of our friendship's a complete lie? You've done nothing that you've told
nothing.
Me. That's it. We may as well.
It's all a front. All a front.
I can believe that. I remember the first day I met you, so I can believe that. You know, when you get scarred about something, that's one of the moments in my time where it's scarred for life.
That was the great thing about working in those restaurants then was that you didn't have to go in until 6 o'clock, or if you were a bit of a blue eye, you got in at 4:30 to do the layup, get everything ready. But you finished at 9:30.
Okay. So what do you do?
Oh yeah, and you got cash in hand. Hello, taxman. And it was on Charing Cross Road, the place I worked.
Okay.
And you got cash in hand. So you'd back then you'd have, depending on how many covers you were able to do, you probably have a tenner.
Okay, I guess there's a lot there back then.
Yeah.
Wow, it looks good. I
keep forgetting this is radio.
This is odd.
So you just get a drink then, pass the time, zhuzh yourself up, and mince on down the road to ease on down the road to heaven.
Oh, God, back
which
then.
Was all.
Oh, when it was proper heaven, not when it sounded. Yeah.
Oh no,
not like now.
No, proper heaven.
Yeah,
when we got all proper music and the smell of poppers. There was nothing stronger than. I think poppers and speed was about the most anybody ever did then. But they used to do this thing called the Devil's Dick, where you would dip the tail end of your neckerchief into...
Who wants a neckerchief? Who wants neckerchief?
Oh, yeah, neckerchiefs were huge, love, huge in the late 80s. And, yeah, all the discus. Anyway, you'd stick the one end of the neckerchief in your poppers, give it to somebody, they'd hold it between your teeth, then you dip the other end of the neckerchief in your poppers, and you had it, and you danced around one another off your face momentarily.
Well, I'm going to say, poppers don't really last long, does it?
No.
Not that you can get them in London much anymore in the bars. No. People put other stuff. No, they've taken. One thing that when I moved to London is that I was surprised that they don't allow poppers in bars or clubs anymore. They do sell them. They do up north still. People empty the contents and put a harder drug inside that they take.
Yes.
So
that's why they stopped
such
doing it, because they were. I know. But Queens have always been inventive. Always. I remember the first time I went to Heaven. Cher was appearing there. It was
as a child.
Which was Believe, the European release, the Wayne Shires
90s then.
version
If the 90s.
that she had done. And as I walked, and of course I had my tickets, all the rest of it, and I'm all ready, and I walked along, and this largish woman said to me, "Walk through here." What?
Uh-oh.
I was being told to walk through a metal detector.
Did they pick up your coil?
What? Metal detector? Yeah. Most thing I would have would be a stud in my ear. That was about it. That's the only bit of metal you would be carrying around then.
You've got one of those faces.
Honestly, I was affronted.
So, hang on,
I'm not going to write to Cher.
She probably would have walked back with bad grammar, as you see on Twitter. So, right, okay, so you're an entertainer, but you said that after you finished and you got some cash in hand, you used to venture down to clubs. But I actually remember a story that you told me that after you'd finished entertaining, you ventured to a club and you was actually turned away. And this was in Barcelona quite some time ago. So you finished some entertaining.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I went over to work in Barcelona.
Yeah.
1980. I know, World Cup was on in Spain.
Why do you know this sports stuff as a gay man? Everything's linked to
Have you seen some of those footballers? Whoa. When Argentina beat Brazil, Brazilians had a massive party on the Ramblas.
Oh, okay.
And who's there in the middle?
You were sandwiched amongst the Argentinians.
Yeah.
So tell the story about the Barcelona.
Yes. It was coming up to a big feast day of theirs called All Souls, which is the 1st of November. And the Spanish dress up the way we do for Halloween. So as most of the dance troupe were from the UK, we thought, well, why don't we have a party? Let's get dressed up. So, not easy to do because you do 2 shows and then across the road. And the name of the club was Studio 54 because it used to be, it was based on the one in New York at the time. So I decided I was going to go as Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Show.
Of course.
And the girls did fabulous eyelashes and glittery makeup and had the red glittery lips and all the rest of it. And I wore one of their dance leotards and a pair of boots. And I went to the door and they turned me away.
How could they? Why?
Because I was showing too much crack. Well, it was a girl's, just the same as Tim Curry had on. And so I had to go back to the flat and put on a pair of my cut-off jeans. And then they let me in.
Because they wouldn't let you in because you was a man. Now, this is quite interesting because back in the days when, 50 years when it first happened, the Gay Pride, there was a law in New York that men had to have at least 2 items of clothing on, otherwise they actually got, well, we've all probably seen the video. So basically, it's kind of the same kind of deal. You're 30 years on or so, you've not been allowed into a club again because of the amount of clothing you're wearing, but which doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, but it's Holy Catholic Spain, same as Holy Catholic Ireland.
Yeah.
You know, they're all hypocrites. It's true.
Don't get you on that one.
It's true. Because most of the bar staff are straight.
Yeah.
But they knew that the Queens were the best tippers.
Yeah, of course.
So they would sidle up to them. There was one guy we used to call the Iceman. Oh.
Why? What? Did crystal meth?
No, he used to play with the ice a bit long before Tom Cruise and
Cocktail.
did Cocktail. Yeah. But this guy was like, he was an ice mold. Mm-hmm. And it was all white or pale blue jeans he always wore. Yeah. And you could see everything. Oh, wow. And he knew. And what else? It was a nice big bit of piping. Plastic tubing from his Bunsen burner.
So coming back to more of your time abroad, then you've had some quite, you've been telling me some quite interesting moments about, I also don't go into too much details because I think it may be too explicit for a little old podcast. But you've been abroad with some like...
Yeah, but I prefer being a fella.
No, you told me some stories about how you've been away and you met people and you've been doing your cocktails and you've been the life and soul of the party and then you've come back to work and there's interesting stories.
What are you getting at? What? See, I tell you stories when I've had a few drinks and
I'm trying to get to a story whether you'll tell it or not. Basically, is when you turned up basically to work after a really good holiday that you've enjoyed, and you turned up to a corporate meeting in your.
That was when I worked for Rank.
Yeah, and you turned up in like basically t-shirts, didn't you?
I was a general manager.
Yeah,
and all general managers had to have a meeting with. Oh my God, the district manager. Oh. Nah, none of them will be listening to it. Fuck it if they are anyway. It's a long time ago. Anyway, I went to the States and did a fab driving holiday, San Francisco down to LA, up to Vegas, and then spent some time in Vegas. And Vegas is great for shopping. And I hit the outlet mall and bought some Armani jeans, Armani t-shirt, Armani from head to toe. And then the last night, I met someone at the bar of the hotel we were staying at. It was a poolside bar. And he said, shall we go out somewhere? Let's just go up to my room first and pick up a few things. Well, went up to his room and his roommate was there and he put out some white powder on a mirror. And I thought, Coke, why not? Why not? Haven't tried Coke before. I was usually just my ecstasy tab was enough for me then.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until about a week later when I described what had happened to somebody that they said, that wasn't Coke. Oh. That's Tina, love. So I was snorted like a Henry, thinking nothing's happening. What's all this fuss about Coke for?
Yeah.
Well, I went out that night. I arrived back about 7 the next morning. The guy I was traveling with, got him out of bed, drove to LAX.
Yeah.
Stayed awake on the plane. Probably had a couple of large bourbons. Got into Heathrow. Picked up my own car.
Wow.
Drove into work for this meeting that was held at the end of the month when you'd go through all the figures with
Gerry.
And there was a strict rule that it had to be shirt and tie, and you had to wear the rank tie and the little lapel badge. No, not me. I can't be arsed. I arrived in Armani head to toe, jeans and t-shirt, and just never shut up. Apparently,
so you're still affected by what you're taking?
Managing director, area director, whoever he was, just gave up.
Wow.
He said, tell us about your holiday. Because apparently I kept interrupting him.
Wow, Gerry.
And saying that, no, I'd seen... Well, you see, it was like a busman's holiday because I had just been given this unit, and all the other guys had been doing it much longer than me.
Oh, okay.
So I got kind of the lame duck, you know, a bit like Theresa May, and was asked to turn it around. So I had all these ideas that I found from going to different places, especially in Vegas
with the white powder.
So
many ideas.
So I told them about Vegas and all the rest of it, and what I'd seen in LA and la, but I never shut up.
Wow.
And I stayed awake, I think, for about 5 days.
That's insane.
I haven't done it since.
That's crazy.
Because I can talk enough without it.
Yes, as you can. So let's jump around a little bit. So you've done the Las Vegas holiday. You told us about growing up in Ireland and why you moved here now. Obviously, it's been 50 years since Gay Pride. And one of the most important things as gay men, I mean, obviously I'm a slightly different generation to you. Your first Gay Pride.
Yeah.
Now, you've come over to London.
Mm.
You said that you didn't have one in Ireland.
No.
And you've suddenly found...
Wow.
Gay Pride.
I missed my first one in 87. It had been the week before. So my first one was 88.
Wow.
And the build up to it, it was like, oh God, somebody getting tickets for opening night to Hamilton. I was like a kid in a sweet shop, couldn't wait. And I think that one, I don't know whether it was the walk out to Kennington or it was... Oh, no. The march used to be... Because the wonderful Westminster Council at the time wouldn't allow screaming homosexuals to walk down Regent Street or Oxford Street. So there was a different route.
Yeah.
And I think you went down Haymarket and then over to... Westminster Abbey, that way.
Yeah.
And then it would all break up and people would jump on buses and tube and had to go to the Oval for Kennington Park or to Clapham.
Okay.
When it was on Clapham Common. And there were just so many people. And at the time, Ab Fab had come on TV.
Oh, okay. Wow, was that
and the number of Joanna Lumleys that would be standing on railings hanging out of lampposts, screaming at people going by, you know, with a bottle of Bolly in one hand usually. And then there was, I always remember going under the arch there at Waterloo. There was a Maggie Thatcher. Like a Steve Nolan from Spitting Image, dressed like him, screaming that we were all going to hell. And Queen shouting stuff back. Great, that's where all the best music is. You know? But the cops were cruel to their own because they always used to put the cute and young ones in under the tunnel there.
Good.
And then, of course, almost everyone in the march had a whistle. So they saved their lungs until they were under that tunnel and blew whistles. And the poor young cops had earache, I think, by the end of the day.
Yeah.
It was fab.
But what was the vibe now? Because you've got, nowadays, I mean, like the people, millennials, are that generation, but it's more like a festival, a party scene. What was the vibe when you was building up to this? You said that it was hard to get tickets. There must have been a sense of like, I am who I am, and I need to prove it to someone, or we need to fight up for our rights. It's totally different now, no?
I wasn't so much snowflake. I was more slush. You'd find me at the side of the road.
I mean, the whole. I mean, I remember my first Gay Pride, and it's massively different to what it is now and what it was.
Oh yeah,
yes.
But there was a lot of fun involved in it then.
Oh, well, is it not more like? To me, I see it's more as a political. This is who we are. You need to take notice, rather than now where it's like, where's the best party?
I found that when I went to Stonewall 25 in Central Park, I found it much more political than
here in the UK. In the UK, you did the politics 364 days of the year.
Oh, really?
But on Pride, that was party time. That was all about visibility, and that was about party, and that was having fun.
I see.
At least that's the way I saw it. I'm sure did a lot of many others. The sight of drag queens in broken heels walking down Whitehall, and bricklayers shutting out the window at them, and
so this is where you probably broken my misconception, because the last time I walked on a Pride parade, not that I'm not proud, 'cause I am, is that I remember very vividly about 6-7 years ago, I was stood next to drag queen, obviously it's fine. I was stood next to a guy walking an old such a bitch. And I was literally, I had the drag queen here. Then I had some guy on all fours with a leather collar with spikes on there, being walked by another guy. And I remember a moment in time, I was like, I have more in common with the people stood at the side of the road, looking in, than the people that I was with. So and it's kind of spoilt it for me, because to me, Pride, I always thought it was about. I mean, I was at the head of LGBT. Well, I was the head of the Lesbian and Gay Society, not the LGBTQ, what we have now.
XYZ,
and it was all about breaking down labels and being integrated. Now, that's all I've ever seen it as. So to me now, Pride is all about partying, but you're just telling me your first Pride was about partying, not politics.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you do the politics at another time. This was being visible. This was being stand up and being counted. This was having fun. Let's show everybody how we can party. That's what it was to me. Sure, when you would get to the park, there'd be one or two political speeches, but mainly it was all about music and acts and people coming on. God, I remember one of the big ones, the last big free one on Clapham Common. You had everyone off the TV and radio wanted to be seen.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Stonewall came along, and they used to have their benefits at, the first one was at the Palladium.
Yeah.
Sold out in no time. And then they used to have their fundraiser in the Albert Hall.
No.
And in the Albert Hall, Ian McKellen came on stage to thank everyone for coming, and he said, of course, this would not have been possible without the wonderful PR company that we have that got us this far.
Okay.
And I would like you all to give a very big hand, please, to the head of the our PR company, Miss Adina Monsoon.
Oh, she came on stage?
And she came on stage at the Albert Hall. And the place rocked.
Wow.
Just rocked. And she started off and she was reading from her prepared script, lots of great gags in there. And she, of course, then had to thank her right-hand person, without whom it wouldn't be possible. Did I just beep that?
It's fine.
And so she turns backstage and says, ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome Miss Patsy Stone.
Wow. Amazing.
Nothing.
Nothing.
The place is,
Nothing, no
place is rocking at this point.
Okay.
Rocking.
Yeah.
Miss Patsy Stone. Nothing.
No one there.
And Pats, up here, Eddie, up here. And there she is on the first balcony.
Wow.
With this very handsome usher and a bottle of Bolly.
That's amazing.
And they did 20 minutes or so. One guy got up to help her down onto the lower level, and she pushed him aside and pointed to the one that she wanted to really.
Yeah, nice one.
And they did it. They did a great 20 minutes.
Wow.
It was also Robbie Williams' first appearance as a solo singer.
Okay.
When
Singing Angels?
No.
Rock.
The George Michael song, Freedom.
Okay. Fair enough.
That was him telling the rest of them that he was free from his contract, you see.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've had the fun bits of this, but I do want to talk about something a little bit more serious, and it is a thing that a lot of gays now won't have experienced. Well, there's a lot of gays that will remember, but certainly not the future generation. The 80s and being a homosexual. So especially in Britain, you've got Thatcher, you've got the, obviously everything started changing for your social circle and stuff. So what was that like experiencing during the 80s in Thatcher's Britain?
No one liked her. No one liked her. Everything she did, she brought in Clause 28, but it was the people who stood up in the Tory party and the things that they said, the vile, vitriolic, nasty, nasty, nasty things that they would say about gay people. And that's why to this day I cannot understand why a gay man would be a member of the Tory party.
Just going back a little bit, there are going to be people that are listening to this that don't know what Section 28 is. I do, you do. So can you explain what she brought into
Section 28, or Clause 28 as it was known, was you weren't allowed, teachers were not allowed to promote a gay lifestyle. It wasn't, there's some of it happening now up in Birmingham, where they're trying to let kids know, some kids have two daddies, some kids have two mummies. And they're using the same cry. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. It's all that was going on in the 80s, and there was a big, big clampdown. They, one of her PR people, worked for a company. He's now an MP over in Northern Ireland, and they tried to close Heaven down. They ran a smear campaign, on Richard Branson and his airline, because the guy worked for British Airways at the time, and was also a member of the Tory party. And of course, Richard Branson was doing cheap flights to America.
Go West.
So they wanted any dirt, even if it was made up, it didn't matter. They told all sorts of stories about gay sex going on in the toilets and people taking drugs in Heaven and all the rest of it. To be fair. Yeah, what?
I've worked in Heaven. To be fair, if it's anything like when I worked there, it was not a made up story. But I mean, that's by the by. It was
what's going on the dance floor? It wasn't in the toilets. But it was stuff that was blown way out of proportion. Yeah. Way out of proportion. So it wasn't a nice time. And so a lot of people, that's when good old Peter Tatchell got together and had ACT UP and things like that made people, because an awful lot of people would, turn a blind eye. Oh no, I don't want to get involved in that. Yeah. It's all very fine, us going out and having a great time on Pride, but this is something that is a lot more serious. We could go to jail for this. You were actually threatened with jail. Councils couldn't promote it. So if a council would give a license for a club to operate, they could in theory go after that council for promoting homosexuality. It's just like Putin's doing in Russia at the moment. Yeah. Exactly the same. And that who's the ugly fucker that's from somewhere? Trump. No, the other ugly fucker.
Kim Jong-un.
Not Ukraine, somewhere like that. One of the stands. He's got a square head and no neck. And they've been going around and rounding up queens and throwing them in jail.
You're about the one that owns a hotel chain?
I don't know. Is it? I don't know.
Is that one that's
this is shite wine. This is really bad.
Don't swap it out.
Do you know? Some people say you're cheap, and I've always stood up for you. But
to be fair,
I'm going to change my mind.
Did ask you to give me half an hour notice to go to the local supermarket. I've got some wine. Do you want some wine?
The local supermarket. The local supermarket. Jeez, 24/7.
Do you want some wine?
Yeah.
Do you want some other wine? Do you want some proper wine?
Go on then.
Okay.
Do you want to pause that? Or will I go and do a song and dance routine now? Do you want me to?
Right.
Yes.
So we talked about Thatcher's 80s. We talked about you going to Pride. A lot of changes happened during the 80s, obviously. The big thing came about. Things have changed.
Once they got rid of Thatcher, things started to change.
Yeah.
Because John Major got into number 10 and his wife Norma was very friendly with, so the story goes, Ian McKellen.
Oh, wow, okay.
And they would talk to her. And so we think she had a chat with him and they started to back off. Plus we also had the wonderful Spitting Image at the time that absolutely slagged off the Tories, and rightly so.
Yeah, of course.
And Blair was coming into his own then, and it was all looking really, really good.
Yes, I remember from being at university when Blair came in, he did so much for the gay community. I mean,
but he was very clever because he said to them, look, this isn't the Labour Party pushing this through. We're being told by Brussels that we have to do this.
Really?
So it was just rubber stamped.
Okay.
And went through, and of course they had Mandy there pushing it forward.
Mandy?
Yeah, that's what it was called.
I thought you were about Mandy's
he was outed on primetime TV on Newsnight.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
Yeah. But certainly one of the happiest times I had in London was the 1st of May 1997.
Jesus. The election.
It was the election.
And
I finished up work early and got a couple of bottles, and Colin was with it at home, and Richie, our neighbour upstairs, came down.
Yeah.
And we sat watching the results come in.
Oh, all-nighter.
And we just laughed. We screeched like banshees every time somebody like Michael Portillo, or the ugliest woman in politics, she lost her seat. We just howled. And it was a big old Georgian house, and we were on the first floor, so we had 3 windows. And they went up, the windows were open, and we just kept playing that Things Can Only Get Better.
Yeah.
Right the way through the night. Nobody seemed to bother. People were in the street dancing and cheering. It was fun.
It was a landslide, though, wasn't it?
Really, really, really brilliant night.
I mean, that was good. It was a landslide.
So things really got different then.
So moving from the 80s into the 90s, so we've gone through all the turmoil of the Thatcher years, and obviously the things that came about within the 80s, you know, the whole HIV thing came out, people lost their lives. Yeah. It was kind of like a reevaluation of the whole gay scene, I think. For me, I would say it was...
I would think because the late 80s, early 90s were incredibly painful.
Yeah.
And people lost a lot of friends and had to watch those friends die in horrific, horrific ways, just watching them fading away. And if nothing else, gay people are very, very resilient. And I think they decided then, do you know what? We've had enough of this.
Yeah.
It's time to party again. It's time to be happy again.
Yeah.
And there was that reflected in the music.
Okay.
That reflected in the drugs. It started off, there were kids in fields out in Hertfordshire taking ease and having a wonderful time. And there had been a lot of trouble with football hooliganism, and the government take credit for putting an end to hooliganism. No, it wasn't. That's at all. It was those people went to the fields out in Essex and the home counties and took their ease, and saw the person that they had been kicking earlier in the day. And they were all loved up, and they started hugging one another, and so that just ended football hooliganism.
Yeah.
And he just changed the 90s
certainly changed it for me and most of the people that I know. You just went out and you had fun.
Yeah, this is where you came into your own, isn't it? Well, this is where you partied.
Every Saturday night without fail.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
was finished work early because the job I had, it was tourists and they had to get back to their hotel because they were leaving on Sunday morning. So it was an early Saturday night. Whoa, whoa, whoop, whoop, whoop. Friends would come in. We'd have a few drinks at the bar. I'd sign that off and then we'd hop in the car and head south of the river.
So drink and drive.
Oh,
That was the thing.
someone
about
else is driving.
I'm sure they are. So
Yes.
yeah, so that was so what were, I mean, back then I feel from being a DJ that the clubbing scene is quite different now to what it is then. I think it's mainly because of the council restraints and everything.
We
all
had
the screws
DJs
that
in London. But
you fucking did.
we didn't have Wakefield DJs. Good proper one.
I mean, I'm going to bypass that. But I mean, the council restraints and all the legalities that everyone has to go through for a club. The clubbing scene has definitely changed, and I don't think it's for the better.
Sure.
But back then, you partied all weekend. The big places like the Trade, the Fridge,
Sure.
all these kind of things. What was a typical weekend for you back in the 90s?
Get them out as quickly as possible, and be at the Fridge by 12.
Oh wow, that's late.
Not really.
But for Northerners, it's late. We're in the pub by 8:30.
That's what I meant. You see, we had proper DJs there because
know how much I hate you right
They
now.
were just doing sometimes you would actually go to somewhere like Exactly Whale who had all the real cheesy stuff that steps and what
steps.
you know, and they'd be doing all the routines.
Yeah.
And then you'd go into the Fridge and it'd get a little bit harder and a little bit cheesier, and as the night went on in the Fridge it would get harder and harder, and then that would finish at 6. They used to have buses waiting outside.
No, what?
That would take you from the Fridge to Trade.
Yeah.
And Trade got rid of their first lot at 5. So
Yeah.
about 5:30 they were opening the doors. So there were people leaving by the back door and people queuing at the front door. So they'd be going in there.
Wow.
And in that sort of half-hour slot, they had to take down all the decorations for that. They sometimes had to change a lighting rig, and they had to put up all these UV fluorescent paint posters that would have to go up as well.
Yeah.
And so you went on to Trade.
Oh.
And then if you were really in the mood, you would go on to a little place around the back of Heaven, Hungerford Lane.
Okay.
There was something there, I think it was called Lollipop or something.
That's a camp.
Yeah. And then bank holiday weekends used to be at, because there was some quirk in the law back then, that if you had a club night on a Sunday followed by a bank holiday, you could go on to 8 o'clock in the morning. So they took over Bagley's Warehouse at bank holiday weekends, and they themed it the Famous Five, like Enid Blyton.
Yeah.
So 5 go down to the beach, and outside they would have palm trees and sand, and they would have a jacuzzi and all sorts of stuff like that.
Okay.
And they would have 5 different clubs. And Susie Kruger was one.
Oh, wow.
Heaven, the Fridge, Substation, or maybe Substation and Susie Kruger would be together, and one other. And I can remember one night saying to a friend of mine, music's a bit shite in here. I'm going into the Fridge room. And he says, excuse me, dear, but you're in the Fridge room. So it was that sort of fun time. Somebody who I was sharing with at the time went out on to the balcony where it was loads of sand and these plastic palm trees.
Yeah.
And took out a cigarette and lit up a cigarette and leaned against the palm tree. And the palm tree and her went right over. Just a
So I'm guessing this is a different time to when you saw Tank drive onto the stage in a nightclub. So you had some quite interesting times.
I don't care what they say. I saw it.
You literally saw a tank come onto a stage.
I was dancing in the fridge, looking up at the stage, and a tank came out of the back wall.
No.
And Queens got up on the tank and danced around, and then it disappeared into the back
Oh, that's nice.
wall. And I turned to one of my friends and said, "That was fucking fantastic. How did they do that?" How did they do what? The tank. The tank. She's having one of her turns. Come over. And I was convinced.
That was a tank. A real life-size tank.
Real tank. Some people say I said it was a pink tank, but it wasn't a pink tank. It was a full-size tank came out of the back wall of the stage at the fridge.
Now, was this the same night that you couldn't find your way out from...
No, that was loads of nights. All the time. I used to go up on stage at a particular time of the night, and I knew the guy who did the lighting, and he would nod to the DJ to play something in particular, and it was usually Night Train, and he would do all the lights for me, and of course I'd be blinded, and I tried to get down off the stage, and I stepped off one night thinking my left foot went onto the step, and my right foot went to go onto the rest of the step, but there was no step there. And I could feel myself falling. And I just saw this cute little guy. So I grabbed him and fell on top of him. And I think he must have been Italian because he said something to me I didn't understand. And that was it. And I didn't realize until I was driving home 4 hours later that I thank God I have an automatic car because my left knee had just swollen
up. So was this the time in the car that you stopped on one of the bridges?
Oh, stop!
Well, we're getting to you. You said you wanted to talk about your fun bits in the 90s.
No!
You did.
You can't tell me. You get me arrested for that.
I don't think anyone's going to arrest you from what you did in the 90s.
Oh, my God.
Driving home in the 90s.
I love Waterloo Bridge because to me, it sums up London. And on one side, you've got the city and St. Paul's and all the rest of it. On the other side, you got the Houses of Parliament and the Eye. And I used to just go into town, drive down one side and back up the other. But one night, coming home, I decided to stop on the bridge.
Why?
I don't know. I was just admiring how wonderful the city is. What a fantastic city it is. It really is capital of the world. Wonderful.
Okay.
And I was just dreaming.
Yeah.
Drifting away. How wonderful this city is. And then about 6 car horns sort of started sounding at the same time. And I realised, oh, fuck, I've stopped on the bridge. Right, go on now. Thanks very much. See you on. Bye. Yeah.
We've gone through the 80s, and now you moved in the 70s, gone through the 80s, the change of the gay scene in the 80s, the fun in the 90s. Right, now moving on to where we are now. You're an older gay gentleman living in, obviously, the world that we are now.
Abject poverty.
How do you feel as an older gay gentleman represented in, obviously, the LGBT world now? I mean, to me, I'm feeling in my late 30s, I'm feeling that, it's very much a young person's life at the moment. So, as an older gentleman from a different generation, how are you feeling as a member of the LGBT community?
It's always been that. It's always been a young lad's game.
Okay.
Always.
Yeah, but
because you're young and you're pretty and you can have what you want.
Oh, I mean,
Jesus, I wish I knew now what I knew then. The power that I had then. I could get whoever I wanted, and usually did.
I mean, to be fair, the stories that you've told me, you get enough now. But how has that changed from what it was?
When you're young, you have a power that you don't realise you have. A lot of people do. Some of them who do realise they have that power become boring, become pretentious, and they're not nice people. Where the cute guy who doesn't know he's cute,
he can get what he wants.
Like Hanley Road.
I wouldn't go that far now. So for the I would still love to go out and go clubbing and find a decent E that I could enjoy.
But what's stopping you from doing that?
Because the drugs are shit. Okay. They're no good. And I've tried a lot of them. But they're just awful.
But is that not a case of chasing the dragon?
No. Jesus, I did E's throughout the 90s. Yeah. And they were still good. God, you pay £15 for an E, and that one E would do you all night.
Yeah.
You know, half for the fridge and half for trade.
Yeah. The problem with the gay scene now, though, everything's on, or pretty much, especially in London, it's all like Tina and GHB, so... Different type of joke.
I think but I do feel that people are chasing those drugs because the ordinary fun recreational drugs are no longer any good.
Yeah.
Because, oh God. Because the mafia are in on it.
Whoever it is.
Not mafia. What's the word I'm looking for?
Cartel? The government?
No.
Theresa May?
No.
Brexit?
You know, it was the same with back in the day of the raves. Just the drug lords wanted in on it, and they wanted to make more money out of it. So instead of putting so much MDMA in a pill, let's cut that in half.
Yeah.
And only put half in. Because I know somebody that dealt in drugs, and he would go and pick up the cocaine using an infirmed ant as a decoy, and he would take it home and he would just half it with talcum powder.
But to me, surely, if you are going to go down that route of wanting to do drugs in a club, you want to be a dealer that has a good reputation that people come back to. So why would somebody provide bog standard, party trees?
Because it doesn't come down to the person on the dance floor dealing the drugs. Okay. It's the guys much higher up the food chain who are making the most money.
Okay.
So they've got a ton of MDMA. So will that make 100,000 pills? Okay, well maybe we'll mix that with talcum powder or dogs worming tablets, and we'll get 200,000 tablets out of it. We still charge the same price. I mean, tablets were £15 back then, and now you get one for £5.
Couple of quid, yeah,
something
like that. I know. Yeah. It's not. I mean, the whole. I think to me the whole scene has quite changed. There's a lot, especially in London. There's a lot of party scene, as in like home parties. People, and do you know what? I think something in London, especially. I think it's the rising cost of drinking out when you go out that on the gay scene has forced people to go. Well, there's a really cheap drug, and I can party all weekend for a lot less than
back in the 90s. It was a cheap drug. £15 would have done you in the entire night.
But you wouldn't drink when you're out. You'd not drink when you was out. But
you weren't supposed to drink. All the advice was you should only drink water. But hey ho,
But did you have, in the 90s though, was there ever a community that associated taking drugs with having sex? Or was it taking drugs with partying, dancing, enjoying fun?
Yeah, but the good thing about back in the day was that you would walk into a club and there'd be a table there.
Okay.
And you could bring your drugs to that table, and they would check it for you, just like they're trying to do in a lot of the festivals now, to protect people.
Yeah.
The same thing happened in the 90s.
Yeah.
You would go in, or better still, you would go up to Camden Market or down to Soho,
buy your mushrooms,
and you buy your own little testing kit, and it was just like a contact lens kit.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, they're coming back now because, as we know, in the 80s, the war on drugs and Nancy Reagan, the war on drugs did not work. And now, finally, I've heard that these testing kits are coming back. So, asking you a question, being an older gay gentleman.
Why do you keep saying older gay gentleman?
Because we're talking...
Because
I'm trying to get...
You need to say that, Ben. Thanks very much.
Okay, as a young gay gentleman... No, I want to
I don't refer to you as an aging gay gentleman, do I?
I am an aging gay gentleman. I want to know to you, as an older gay gentleman, how you feel or how you're positioned within the gay community now.
On the outside looking in.
Well, there we go. That's what I'm getting at. It's like, to me, every stage of life should have a place within the LGBT community. But I now feel that people of a certain age or a certain, however, are being made to look like they're looking in from the outside.
But that's really my choice.
Okay.
If I wanted to go and hang around the bars and so I could. I know somebody and that I've known for a long time, and he goes apoplectic if he sees a drag queen.
Why?
He just doesn't like drag queens.
I know who you're talking about.
Brings down the tone of the gay scene.
Why?
They're not really gay, but they're not like us. What?
See, that's segregation with you.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Not like us.
Yeah, of course. Just a question, because we are rounding up now. But what do you think of the fact that when I was at university, it was all about the lesbian and gay community. Now lesbian, bisexual, and gay community, and now we've got LGBTQI plus. So how do you feel about all this?
Doesn't bother me in the slightest, because if there are people on the periphery, then they need support.
Okay.
If I hadn't have had support from people the same as me, I wouldn't have been able to come out. So I don't mind if transgender people want to be part of the group. I think we should all stand together, because there's strength in number. Because as you well know, when gay liberation started, they used feminists at the time banded together to make it a stronger unit. And that's why I think we are much stronger together. People will try to separate us. Yeah. Some within our own ranks will try to separate us.
Of course.
We're always stronger together.
So you don't mind that they've banded gender with sexuality in a group? Oh,
I've never objected to sex. Never.
Well, there you are. That's Gerry Cummings, who's been telling us his interest.
Is that it?
It's been an hour and 8 minutes.
Is that it?
Probably a lot less by the time I've edited this shit out.
Jesus, you get your scissors out, it'll be down to 8 minutes.
So regardless of how long that you're listening to this podcast...
Do I not get to tell them about all your escapades up in on the M62 and stopping off in Wakefield and your poison ivy and plastic ivy? What is it called?
Plastic ivy. Is that still going?
All the things that you got up to?
Is that still going, plastic ivy?
You tell me.
That's it. Thank you very much, Gerry.